At the start of each year, I re-release this exact same post. No revisions, no edits, really outside of this introduction. Every year that I reread it, I think I believe it more than I did the previous year. And this year's no different. All right. So I spent 9 days in Japan, and I think I came back changed in some of the best ways. We'll talk more about that later. But one way in particular that I came back changed was in realizing my need to slow down. I mean, I ended up buying this like dip pen and ink. And at the beginning of every journal, every single one of the journals that I had, every planner, every field notes book, I started writing down this same reminder. And that reminder is slow down. Slow down. There is no deadline or there is no rush for the person you're becoming. So as we start on this new year, I just want you to remember, January is for reflecting, not for resolving. Okay? This is not a race. There's time to settle in and to chill. And I hope that you'll feel the permission to do so, right? And if you've read this post before, I hope you believe it more on the reread. If you've heard this post before, I hope you believe it more on the rehearing. And this is the first time that you're seeing this. And so I hope that you'll believe it more on the watching. All right. Yeah. Stay until the end. You've got to stay until the end. I remember watching a post-credits movie scene for the first time. I think it was Iron Man, right? You know the vibe. You know, the credits start rolling as everyone's brushing popcorn kernels off of their laps to the soundtrack of synchronized grunts from people in their 40s and past that as they try to stand, right? And you find this interesting thing that goes on where the large majority of the theater, right, started to make their way towards this exit, seemingly in a rush to get somewhere, right? Here was the frustrating thing for me, right? As I sat and I talked, I thought, where? Where is everybody in a rush to get to, right? We were at the movies. It was the last showing of the day. We were out. This is where people intended to be. And the only other place to go after the movies was back to the crib. Most of the people had nowhere to be, but everybody was in a rush. And it didn't make any sense to me, but the collective energy of the room was enough to pull me out of my seat to the exit with the rest of the herd, and following the crowd just felt so natural and so easy. And I would have done it if it hadn't been for that faint whisper of the white dude in glasses next to me, right? He just said, stay until the end. And I listened, right? Maybe it was because he had glasses and it was a comic book movie and he looked like the type that would give you the backstory to everybody in the joint without taking a breath, right? The only time that he would pause is when he knuckled his glasses back up to the bridge of his nose. And but he just said, yo, wait, there's more. There was more. The movie wasn't even done yet. And that one scene at the very end, after some apparent conclusion, forever changed how I engaged with movies. I always stay until the end. I never form my conclusions until I see everything. Absolutely everything, right? It's been a little over 3 years since I made the decision to resign as a pastor after 16 years. My entire adult life and more of my identity than I'd like to admit was wrapped up in that job, that title, that position, that calling, that blessed burden, whatever it is that you want to call it. And December 3 years ago felt more like a series finale than a season finale, right? Which made me hyper aware of everything. I didn't want to miss anything. I wanted to spend the month living instead of planning for what was next. It was using December like that 3 years ago that forever changed me. And here's the one thing that stood out. Most people treat the month of December like movie credits, all right? Listen, When December 1st starts playing, everybody begins brushing the kernels of 2025 off of their laps, rushing towards the year's exit. Right? The constant convo is all about what's next, what are the goals, what are we going to do? Nobody wants to fall behind, so everybody spends their time planning and reflecting and resolving, and nobody stays until the end. The more that I think about it, the more it feels ridiculous and absurd, right? It feels like a movie critic in a rush to meet a deadline, writing a think piece on a film while it's still playing, right? 2025 was still playing, and instead of living and enjoying the moments, we were pressed to turn in our resolutions before some ball dropped in New York. And I just got to the point where I said, I don't like that game. I don't like those rules. I want to stay until the very end. I don't want to spend my life mindlessly following everyone else to an exit that's so premature, right? We are still in winter. The grass in my backyard is still dead. Granted, it'll be dead come springtime because I don't really take care of my grass like I should. But it's dead now because it's winter, right? The leaves are hiding, animals are hibernating, creation is recharging and resting and reflecting. And this January, I've determined to do the exact same thing, right? Maybe part of the reason why so many of our resolutions fail by February is that they were early. Maybe the resolutions weren't wrong or bad. Maybe they were just undercooked. Maybe they needed an extra month or two in the oven. Maybe they needed an incubator, a place where the previous year in its entirety could be taken into account and the new year could be lived in, even if only like briefly, right? Most of us tend to live our lives 11 months at a time, and I don't want to do that. January, at least for me, is that incubator. So while everybody else is scrambling to get ahead of the crowd in a rush to go nowhere in particular, I think I'm going to stay reclined in my seat this month. All right, look, this right here is a live look at my office at 4:30 a.m., January 1st, 2024. It's still messy. It's not put together. I've got a plan in the corner that I failed to keep alive last year, but that's what a New Year's for, right? This month, I'll clean up as I reflect on these past years, right? Look, here's a live look at my office at 8:03 a.m., December 30th, 2025. And what you'll see is it's still messy. I threw out the plant that died last year, and in its place are, a pair of J's that I've got on ice and a teleprompter that I've resolved to use, that I said that I was going to use last year, but I resolved that I'm going to use it this year, right? I'll clean up in January at some point as I reflect on 2025. I still get up at 4:30 a.m. as I have for the past 7 years and counting, right? After spending time drinking water to rehydrate and getting a cup of coffee, I still spend the first hour of the day reading books that I've been meaning to get to and writing words like the ones you are listening to me read right now, the ones that you find on my Substack. But more importantly, in January, I'm reflecting on a full year, on all of my plans that failed, and all of my apparent failures that didn't quite go as planned, that turned out to be these incredible successes when I looked at them through the lenses of December 31st, right? So for now, for the third time in my life now, I've treated a year like I treat the movies. I've stayed until the end. And I think I'm going to be better for it. All right, look, this is the last thing, all right? I got LASIK in 2020, so I don't need to wear glasses. The glasses that you see me wear are 100% fake just for style. So that little piece of my credibility may be gone, but I'm inviting you to join me. All right. If you've already stood up with the rest of the crowd and resolved prematurely to do all types of things that you know that you're not going to do just yet, don't be afraid to erase some of those resolutions, or hit the backspace key, or just throw them in the trash. Throw them away. I'm begging you. Stay until the end. Stay until the end. Stay until the end. I'm telling you, February 1st is as good a time to start as any other time of the year, right? Think about all the people you admire, people that bodybuild, people that are writers, people that do the things that you want them to do. And I want you to spend some time and take this week and ask them how many of them can trace back the beginning of their life-changing discipline to January 1st. And I think that you'll find it's very few people. So yeah, I think January is better for reflecting, not resolving. I'm interested to hear what you think. This is my first one like this. And so I think that, do people still end up with and say like, comment, and subscribe? Okay, yeah, like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to get better at this. It's in one of these buttons. Maybe we'll just put it in the top corner. Like, comment, and subscribe. All right, peace, y'all.